What's up, everybody? It is Matt Modi with OddsJam, and for this video, talking Lakers Sixers. This is the second of the two NBA ESPN primetime games tonight. I am on the East Coast, so I hope I can stay up for it, but who knows? I might fall asleep early. But I am a Sixers fan, so I know this team intimately, and also I know all there is to know about this game tonight and their, in general, history against the Lakers. So, as we can see, the Sixers are pretty heavily favored here. The OddsJam perfect line gives their money line at minus 326. The best odds I'm seeing it are minus 320 on DraftKings. Don't recommend anything with that unless you're using it in a parlay piece. And it makes sense why the Sixers team is so heavily favored, right? The Lakers have just been an absolute disaster. They're 4-10 in their last 14 games. They're 10 games below 500. They're sitting at 31-41. And pretty much since the All-Star break, the 4 games they've won, LeBron goes absolutely bananas, scores 50 points, puts up 70 points, rebounds, assists combined, or they lose in embarrassing fashion. Since the All-Star break, they've lost to teams under 500, such as the Wizards, the Rockets, and they've also been blown out, annihilated by the Suns by 29, the Timberwolves by 20. They just put up some pitiful, grotesque performances. So it's no surprise, like I said, to see the Sixers heavily favored here. The last game the Lakers played, they did win in an absolute berserk game by LeBron James. Russell Westbrook also played well in that game, surprisingly enough, one of his rare good games. He has really not been able to follow up one good game with another good game, so I don't have a ton of faith in Russell Westbrook tonight. I'm going to look at his player props to see where he's worth fading. And then on the Sixers side, they're kind of a baffling team. They go from looking like the 72-win Chicago Bulls to looking like the 10-win process year Philadelphia 76ers. Sometimes they do that in the same game. They seem to either be troubled by slow starts. When they first got Harden, they would go down big in the first half. They would come back and win in the second half. They did this in multiple games against the Magic, against the Cavs. And then they also have games where they start really fast and then they blow the lead. They did this against the Nuggets in a game they lost when they really should have won. And they did this in a really disgusting loss to the Raptors this past Sunday, in which really they had no business losing that game. The Raptors were without Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby, and the Sixers had a huge lead and they blew that game. Then the next night, without James Harden and Joel Embiid, they beat the Miami Heat. So a little bit of a baffling Sixers team, like I said. But when it comes down to it, they just keep on winning. So like I said, the Lakers have lost 10 of 14. The Sixers have won 10 of 14. In one of those games, James Harden didn't play. And in those 10 wins, they've beaten some legitimately good teams. They've beaten the Bucks, the Bulls, the Timberwolves, the Heat, the Cavs, the Mavericks. All those teams they've beaten in this streak. So I have a lot of faith in the Sixers tonight. I'm not surprised, like I said, to see them as heavy favorites. I'm not touching the money line, but what I am looking at is the point spread. And so it looks like as of right now, the Sixers are about 7.5, 8.5 point favorites, depending on where you look. So it's funny enough, I locked the Sixers in at 7.5 before I started recording at minus 110 odds, but I locked it in on PointsBet. Luckily, all the math is the exact same. So when I add this to my bet tracker, you're going to see a screenshot of PointsBet pop up, but it's minus 7.5, minus 110 odds. I mix-slammed it. I love the Sixers in this matchup. I think they're going to cover. Joel Embiid's history versus the Lakers is actually pretty good. He grew up a Lakers fan. He grew up a huge Kobe fan, and he always dreamed playing in LA. So if you look at his stats against the Lakers, he just pummels them. It's one of his better opponents in terms of points per game. He put up his first 50-point game in his career, or close to it, against the Lakers back in his second or third year playing. The Sixers are 1-0 against the Lakers this year. When the Lakers were actually good, last year they beat them. Even in the year the Sixers were kind of a train wreck with Al Horford and the Lakers won the championship, the Sixers beat them. So the Sixers just have the Lakers number. And as good as LeBron is playing recently and this year. He currently leads the league in points per game. Joel Embiid is second. I just can't believe that they're going to follow it up with another good performance with how pitiful they've been. So the guess here is that Russell Westbrook is going to start breaking jumpers. LeBron James is going to get frustrated, and I really think this is going to be a blowout in the Sixers' favor. So I know it sounds like I'm being a homer, but I'm not, because if any of you know me, you know that I hate the Sixers more than I like them. I'm just a Sixers fan, but I hate my life because of it. So the Sixers minus 7.5, I absolutely love. Like I said, I got it minus 7.5 on PointsBet, as you see on the screenshot here. But it's currently available on FanDuel at the same odds. So I definitely recommend locking that in. Sixers minus 7.5, I love. It makes sense for basketball reasons. And then when you look at the math, OddsJam Perfect Line prices that at minus 120. The other side of it is priced at 108. So it's only 12 cents in market width. And most other books, as you can see, have this priced at 8 or 8.5. So I love getting the extra point to half a point in this game. So I love it. Sixers minus 7.5 is my official play. Looking at the total, I didn't see much. So when the lines first opened, I really loved the under in this game, but the odds have shifted a little bit, and the under is no longer as plus EV as a play as it was. It actually looks like odds are ripping towards the over, which I'm not, for basketball reasons, I don't love. The Sixers, they play at the second slowest pace. The Lakers' offense is bottom 10 in the NBA, and they can sometimes look like they're just stuck in mud and just can be an absolute chore to watch. So the math suggests this game going over, but for basketball reasons, I don't love it. So I'm going to go ahead and sit out the total now that the odds have shifted a little bit. And now let's take a look at some player props. In looking at player props, the first thing I want to look at is Joel Embiid points. Like I said, second in the league in points. He's been absolutely balling. Unfortunately, I took a look at it. There's really no math to suggest that Embiid's going to go over his point total. If anything, I kind of like getting it over 32.5 for plus money, so at least you're not getting as bad of odds as 31.5. And I actually really do like this one. So it's not going to be an official play because the math doesn't support it. But I love getting Joel Embiid over 32.5 points at plus 105 on PointsBet. Like I said, he shows up against the Lakers. He's well rested. He sat out the Sixers last game. And I think he's going to want to come out and play really well against the Lakers, his favorite team growing up. One play that I did mix slam was Joel Embiid over 11.5 rebounds. I absolutely love this one. I took it on Caesars for $100. I mix slammed it. And for basketball reasons, it makes a lot of sense. So the Lakers, they have a really poor shooting percentage, and they actually play kind of fast. So when a team plays fast and misses a lot of shots, that screams a lot of rebounds. And the Embiid, as bad as the Sixers are at rebounding, Embiid has consistently gone over this total in the last 5, the last 10, and on the season. So I love getting Embiid over 11.5 rebounds. Another play that I really liked, and this makes me a little sad, but backing Tobias Harris. So I got him over 23.5 points, rebounds, assists. The OddsJam Perfect Line prices that all the way at minus 156. I don't love the odds. I got it at minus 125 on DraftKings and BetMGM, but I think it's a good bet. 23.5 is a low number, and Tobias Harris has actually been playing better since when he first started. When James Harden came on the team, he was awful. He looked like he had no idea what to do. He was really bad, but he's gotten better recently. He's kind of understood that he's got to have a quick trigger playing with James Harden. And a lot of times to get him going, Doc will play him without Embiid on the floor to open up space a little bit. So he's playing with Harden. He's getting more looks. He's getting an open floor. And I think that he can easily go over this 23.5 points, rebounds, assists. Looking at LeBron, there wasn't a ton of value. There's actually value on his under, but I'm certainly not going to fade LeBron. Kind of like my logic with Embiid. The math was there, but the basketball sense was not. One person I did want to fade was Russell Westbrook, but there are no player props up for him yet, so we'll have to check out that later. So you have to follow me on Twitter, but as far as official predictions go, Sixers minus 7.5. I'm sitting out the total, and then for player props, math be damned, I'm taking Joel Embiid over 32.5 points, and I'm taking Tobias Harris over 23.5 points, rebounds, assists. And my favorite play that I mixed slammed was Joel Embiid over 11.5 rebounds. And that's all I got for you. So would love to hear your thoughts on what you, my analysis, how you thought that I did, what your thoughts were on my thoughts. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can comment on the video with your thoughts that way. Other than that, would appreciate a like on the video and subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. But that is all I got for you. So thanks for watching and have a good one.